Good morning. Welcome to Funky Rainbow this festive Saturday morning. I mean, we're right in the middle of a big festival season, and one hopes that all the festivities that begin now in October and go on till January, celebrating festivals from different communities, festivals from different religions, festivals from different cultures, really, works towards giving India its colorful and secular fabric. So we are, of course, in the middle of Dashera, and we'll start off by wishing everybody a wonderful Dashera that is, I think, so different from everything that we have seen before, thanks to COVID. But one hopes really, even in these changed times, we are able to celebrate the festival with our near and dear ones, and perhaps in the true spirit of the season. We know, this is, I think, this is the eighth day of Dashera, and I hope many of you have lit up the Dashera with books, which is exactly what Funky Rainbow wants to do for all the festivals that India celebrates across the next couple of months, perhaps in fact all through the year. Celebrate everything with children's books, and this time even some books for adults. So our Dashera Deepavali Buzzaar, is going to focus on books for children's books and books for adults that feature let's say the festivals of Diwali and Dashera in different ways, and various things connected to it. The epic, for instance, one of the world's most beloved epics, the Ramayana, is connected very closely to the festivals of Dashera and Deepavali, and hence we have many versions of the Ramayana we're going to be presenting them to you. We do have books that focus on Dashera, we have books that focus on Navratri, and we have just lovely books for children that are set in these festival times, where the focus is not so much on the context of the festival as it is being set in this particular festive period. We have, of course, announced a campaign called the Bookwali Diwali campaign, and all the many of the books that we're focusing on today are books from our Bookwali Diwali packs. Why did we come up with this campaign? Well, it's because we wanted to light up, for everyone to light up Diwali with books. And really, books, I think, can light things up much more brighter than anything else. At least that's the belief that Team Funky Rainbow has. Now, the thing is, the Bookwali Diwali packs have been curated for different age groups. And, when I started the show, I said, we have curated some, 2 packs for adults as well. And these Bookwali Diwali packs at the moment are available only as packs at Funky Rainbow. So these are books that have gone into this. There are picture book packs, there are chapter book packs, there are packs for middle grade readers, there are packs for young adults, there's a pack for the entire family. I mean, there's even a pack for adults. Many of these focusing on, on the festivals that are being celebrated, many of them that focus on Diwali, sometimes in a direct manner, sometimes obliquely, often sort of standing traditions on their head, which is what we love about many of these books. The fact that literature is open to interpretation, that's what makes literature and books so significant in all our lives. The fact that we can open these texts up to interpretation, we can discuss these with our children, we can discuss these with the young adults in our life, and we can discuss it with each other. And I think as people who are all interested in the space of books, in one way or the other. We must never take away that opportunity for conversations around books. I can see Joanne, you're here. Lovely to see you this morning, Joanne Saldana. I hope you'll enjoy our curation, our Book Wali Diwali packs, and there are lots of other books that we have been sort of slipped into, the countdown along with our Book Wali Diwali packs. Preeti Ramchandran, what a pleasure to see you. Thank you for wishing us a happy Dashera. And books are a key part of Vijay Dashmi gifting this year. I'm so happy to hear that. It is really books, I think, light up lives much, much more than anything else does. At least, that's what Team Funky Rainbow's sincere belief is. So, of course, as always, please log into our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Click on the tab that says Buzzaar, and, there'll be a drop-down menu that comes there, and the drop-down that says Dasara Deepavali, that's the one that you need to click to find out all the books that we are featuring in the bazaar. Oftentimes we are never able to talk. Bindya Parvani, you say good morning to you too, and a very happy Dashera. Oftentimes the books that we are talking, the books that we have picked and made a selection of, we're only able to speak about a smattering of those, and we really hope that you look at the website to see several others that have also been included, but perhaps that we've not been able to focus on for lack of time. Like I said, the Book Wali Diwali packs are only available as packs. The books are not available individually at the moment, and they will not be till at least the 20th or the 25th of November. And for those of you who are considering gifts for yourselves, for your family members, for children, from adults, in this festive season, please do consider our Book Wali Diwali packs. That whole campaign has been put together with much love, and much light. So we really do hope that many of you will spread the love of Indian children's books, and for those of you who want to gift books to adults, to other adults in your lives, this time we've got Book Wali Diwali packs that are meant for adults as well. We, of course, have a special guest at the bazaar later today, and we thought this season of stories, there should be a storyteller who joins us, and we have none other than, our own partner at Funky Rainbow, writer, author, illustrator, storyteller, Grace Stroke, joining us with a sweet and salty story. That will, of course, happen later in the show, but I'm going to start off, with my recommendations for you this morning. But before I start, I'm just going to, send a shout out to two very, very special ladies in my life, and two ladies who have absolutely been instrumental in inculcating a love for books and stories, both of whom are celebrating their birthdays today. One happens to be my mum, Geeta Mani, and I know she's watching this morning. And the other one is my aunt, who's all of 92 years, and I hope she's also watching, because I've requested, someone to come on Facebook on her behalf. And both these ladies have literally filled my life with books and stories in so many unbelievable ways. My mother's constant birthday gift was often library memberships, and those libraries held treasures of all kinds, all shapes, all sizes within them. And my aunt, who would specialize in giving you little, handfuls of food as we would sit out in a terrace, would be regaling us every time with spectacular stories. In fact, very often, her stories were centric on the Ramayana, which is something that she possibly knew very well. And while say Hanuman was looking for the Sanjeevani booty, he would suddenly turn around and tell Vidya please eat what is in your hand, because only then can I continue looking for the Sanjeevani booty. It was almost like I held the Sanjeevani booty in my hand. So a big shout out going out to both these ladies, one of whom turns 71 and the other one who turns 92, for filling, my life and the lives of all of us at Funky Rainbow with books. Good morning, Asha. So wonderful library memberships as gifts. Yes, we had memberships to virtually every little library in every nook and corner. Bindya Parvani, you say, I was waiting for books for adults. So excited. Yes, a small smattering of books for adults as well. But yes, Asha, library memberships making such lovely books. Joanne Saldana, yay, looking forward to Sham's storytelling. We are looking forward to it too. So without further ado, Falak, you say library memberships are the best gifts ever. Absolutely, Falak. Nothing, as pleasurable as gifting a library membership to a child and letting them discover just the wonderful treasures that books hold in our lives. And, my mom did this not just for me, but for all, my cousins, siblings. In fact, they all remember her even today as being the person who, introduced them to the concept of a library. So there it is, a big shout out to two ladies who filled our lives and continue to even today with books and stories. So I will get started with our first Book Wali Diwali pack. And the first Book Wali Diwali pack, is a pack for the youngest of readers, for picture book readers. And this one, I'm going to start off with the first recommendation in this pack is this wonderful interactive book called Kahani Purani. Now, this one is written, retold by Pridi and illustrated by Alicia Souza. And it's a lovely little book, which is in English and Hindi. When I say English and Hindi, it is actually in Hindi, and the Hindi has been transliterated into English. For those of us who can't read Hindi, the text is actually written in English, and, you will be able to read it very well for your children. Now, it just begins like this. Ek hue the Raja Ram, bahut bada tha unka naam. And that's the first page of the book. And you can see that, the interactive element is when you pull down this flap, lovely flowers get showered on Raja Ram. And we, of course, move on to the next page, which says, Lakshman chote bhaiya the, bahut hi pyare bhaiya the. And what I particularly love is Lakshman standing right here, and he's holding this little shell conch in his hand. But the wonderful thing is these can be made, you can move it, and there are various gifts that he can offer, including an apple a day. I am assuming keeps the doctor away. So you can see, he's offering us a flower. He's offering the reader some laddus, but we particularly love, he's also offering the reader a bunny rabbit, but we particularly love this gift that he's giving out to children, which is the gift of books. So evidently, this is the story of the Ramayana in an interactive, lift the flaps or turn the wheel kind of books, the story of Ram and Sita for the youngest of readers. As I said, this one's published by T4 Tales. Nancy Raj, you say yay. Absolutely, this one's a real yay. This one is priced at, so individual prices, I guess, don't really make a difference, but it's priced at 499 rupees. But at the moment, only available in our Book Wali Diwali Pack 1. Our second book in that pack is this one called Hooray for Diwali. Now, this is a simple picture book written by Anita Rena Thapan and illustrated by Alankrita Amaya, which is the story of a young boy called Gittu. Gittu gets up in the morning all excited about celebrating Diwali along with his family members and his cousins. And the story goes on to, sort of tell you about different things that are getting ready in the household for the festival of Diwali. You can see a huge table full of sweets there. And what is lovely is that there are heaps of sweets: green pista barfis, pink coconut barfis, yellow besan laddus, white milk cake. There was also peanut candy. And because this is a modern family, there was also Gittu's favorite chocolate fudge. Yummy. That is a sweet Diwali, if ever there was one. And the story goes on to talk about different things the family does for the occasion of Diwali. They are, putting away some of their older things. They are taking away their old toys. They're taking away their old clothes. They want to give these away and make space for the new things that come into their lives. They're also waiting eagerly for uncles, aunts, and cousins to come in, to come home, so that they can all celebrate the festival together. So it touches, in brief about, why we light lights. I mean, why we light, light up diyas, why do we give presents? Why do we feast? What does the festival of Diwali really celebrate? This one is published by Tota Books, and while Kahani Purani is really for the youngest of readers, we would recommend this one for readers 3 plus, 4 plus, because there is some text in it. In fact, you can possibly narrate it to the younger, children, but we would sort of recommend it for children who are 4 plus to read it on their own. Accompanying Hooray for Diwali is a coloring book. And I know oftentimes many of you have written to us saying, please, can we include activity books? And we are planning a bazaar sometime. I'm, thinking by the time this year ends, on using activity, art and craft books, and different kind of hobby books. We will most certainly do a bazaar, but in this pack we have included this coloring book, which is connected to the picture book Hooray for Diwali. And there are things to color, there are little recipes to read, there are mazes to there are mazes to conquer, to reach your gifts or your sweetmeats. So this is a lovely accompaniment to the book, the picture book Hooray for Diwali. This too has been published by Tota Books. And the fourth book in our pack is a lovely little book for the youngest of readers. Again, we would say it can be read to children as young as 2 and 3, but if children have to read it on their own, 4 plus, Junior Kumbhakarna by Arundhati Venkatesh and illustrated by Shreya Sen. It is such a charming story about a little boy called Cuckoo. And Cuckoo's favorite bedtime story is the story of this giant Kumbhakarna. And I just love the way Shreya Sen has illustrated the pages of the book. Kumbhakarna truly makes you giggle in many ways. So Kumbhakarna was huge. He loved to eat. He ate as much food as 100 men. And, what happens after he ate? He burped, he stretched, he yawned, he snored, and he fell right asleep. Richa Ja, you say Junior Kumbhakarna, love this one. Absolutely. It's such a pleasurable book, so enjoyable. And, just gently slipping the story of one part of the Ramayana into the book, so that, perhaps you can explain to your children, to the youngest of readers, the story of Ramayana, while you're reading this fabulous book about snoring Kumbhakarna, so beautifully illustrated by Shreya Sen. So these 4 books constitute our picture book pack. Padma Baliga, you say good morning and a very happy Dashera, guys. Thank you so much. A very, very happy Dashera goes out to you as well. And, we know that your life is absolutely illumined by books. And we really hope that that's what, we can all do, by reaching books to children here, there, everywhere. In fact, to children, young adults, and adults, light up all our festivals with books. So, these four books constitute our Bookwali Diwali picture book pack, and the picture book, and this pack has, a greeting card that can be customized. All our packs do, so we can write wishes on your behalf to whomever it is being sent to. There are some special bookmarks. There's attractive packaging, and here's a gift that you could send out to anyone. We read, you say, we love Junior Kumbhakarna. You read it when we read it when Ramayana was on TV. Children watched this episode with delight thanks to the book. Yes, for sure. In fact, I think these books leave so much more open to interpretation, more than what we watch on TV. Divya Purandar says, Happy Dasara, Happy Bookwali Dasara, Happy Bookwali Dasara, Happy Bookwali Diwali, Happy Bookwali Christmas, and really, festivals to be celebrated every time with books. Yes, but I just love the fact that books leave so much to our imagination still. So, like I said, a special pack, specially, curated, specially packaged, and, waiting to be sent to the youngest of readers here, there, everywhere for the occasion of Diwali. For those of you who order these packs, we are dispatching packs we're at the moment picking up orders, and each one of these packs can be ordered off our website and sending them all out on the 5th of November. So, so that they reach, the people that they are meant to in time for Diwali. So I will continue with, more recommendations. We are moving on to a very, very simple book from NBT for Diwali, called Diwali. This one has been illustrated by Ravi Paranjpe. And the thing about this book was that when NBT started to publish for children way back in the 70s, sometime in, I think it was 82 or 83, that they felt that children's books, needed very, very good illustrations, and announced a competition for illustrators to find illustrators. And, the best way to do that, they felt, was by announcing a competition. There were 3 books that came out of that first competition that they announced. I think it was 1982 or 83. One of them was a 1 to 10 procession. The other one was Homes. And the third one was Diwali, which means this is a book that has remained in print for that many years, over 20 years, in print. A simple spot colored kind of book, wordless, completely wordless. And you can see with these kind of bright illustrations, which focus on what typically people do on Diwali. So here's a child in the first spread being given a special Diwali bath. The house has been illumined. There are new clothes to wear, and it's completely wordless. So you can see that it goes on, with them lighting up some crackers. I'm not sure that this day and age is so conducive for crackers, frankly, but, these were books that were put together so many, many decades ago. And, perhaps at that point in time, still acceptable. I know, lots of children do like to burst some crackers, and maybe those noiseless ones, those sparkling ones are the best bet. But this one, a little one that highlights how, the house is decorated for Diwali and what, we do during the festival. It's priced, NBT's books are available at unbelievable prices generally. This one is priced at 20 rupees only. My next book for Dashara and Diwali is a new one on our shelves called Merry the Elephant and the Diwali Lamps. This one is part of the Merry the series, Merry the Elephant series, put together by, the Miss Moochie books. They mean this as books for the youngest readers, 2 years up, basically, just 2 years on. And they have this character called Merry the Elephant and several friends. And Merry has different kinds of adventures. Merry is part of a fancy dress, party once. Merry has to, go to school and solve a problem at one point in time. Merry has a feast of bananas in another. But this one is Mary the Elephant and the Diwali Lamps. It's written by Karishma Mehbubani and illustrated by Pia Elise Hazarika, which is the story of Mary and going to her friend G's house for Diwali, and deciding to Diwali was Mary's favorite festival, and she has dressed up in special clothes to go to G's house. You can see she's wearing a langa choli, or she's wearing a pavade, she's wearing, and she has arrived at G's house to celebrate Diwali. Now, G tells her, oh, after the Diwali celebrations are over, my grandfather is going to take me to see a cricket match. And that's her grandfather's gift for Diwali, give it. That's the gift that Grandpa has given G, for Diwali. Now, before they do, and as they embark on the celebrations, something happens that involves the match tickets. Oh my God. What happens that involves the match tickets, that Grandpa has kept aside? A funny story in there, as well as a life lesson for younger children about being careful, when there are diyas and lamps around you. It's a lovely, gentle book, which which is a good way to tell children how to be safe during festivals, especially Diwali. This one, as I said, published by Miss Muchi Books, celebrating a safe Diwali. Our next set of books, which focus on, like I said, not all books are connected to Diwali. They could be connected to some epics. Amrita, you say you love this. That's just lovely. I'm so glad that you're enjoying our recommendations. Our next set of books are, two books in a series called Amma's Tales. I think these books are, very, very nice ways to introduce children to different things. Like, there is a series that this author Hema Vaidyanathan has done that's called How and Why Tales, where different phenomena of nature are introduced through stories from mythology. Similarly, in Tales, she's telling the stories of, some, two monkeys, two demons, all of which connect to the Ramayana in interesting ways. I mean, the story of the Ramayana is not told here, but one episode, where, these characters feature in the Ramayana. So letting you extend the story very nicely if you would like to. So Tales Volume 1 is, and each of these books have two stories tucked away, very nicely illustrated. This one both have been illustrated by Kishore Mohan and Roshan, and you can see bright, colorful illustrations meant really for young readers. In fact, you could read this out to children as young as 3 and 4, and they could, I think, start reading it by the time they are 5 years old themselves. I mean, an army of monkeys marching away. Now this is the story. The monkeys featuring in this Tales 1 are, of course, Vali, the king of Kishkinda, and the story of his powerful tail. It is, quite a delightful story. And it's also a story of, how a king wants to, sort of take care of the welfare of his kingdom. And while reading this story of Vali, that, towards the end of it, that boon that Vali has got at the end of the tale is something that makes a very, very important episode in the Ramayana possible. So these are great ways to introduce your children to epics, to the epic, to different stories in the epic. And here there are the monkeys, Nila and Nala. And we do know that both Vali, who was responsible in helping Rama look for Sita, and Nila and Nala, who helped them build the bridge the bridge of stones that led to Lanka and to Ravana. So, a great way to extend the stories if you would like to. And in this one, too, she introduces the story is about Vali again and about, a Rakshasa called Dundubi. And I really love the way this ferocious Rakshasa has been portrayed in the book. A bullish Rakshasa, and it's not the story of Dundubi is not one that we know very often, and what his connection is to the Ramayana you can find out from the Tales books. So volume 1 and volume 2 available, both of them priced at 95 rupees each, available on our website www.funkyrainbow.com. Please click the link that says Buzzaar on top, and there'll be a drop down menu that comes up called Dasara, Diwali, Deepavali, and if you click that, all the books that we're talking of today and the ones that we can't talk about as well in there, available at special prices. Only the books that are in the packs, in our Bookvali Diwali packs, are not available for sale individually. They are only available for sale as packs. I will, of course, move on to my next pack, which is our picture book pack 2. And this one is a lovely little, picture book pack, again, meant, let's say, for children in the ages of 5 to 7 years. The first pack was really meant for the youngest of readers, 1 to 5 years. This one, has this beautiful book, Hanuman's Ramayana, by Devdutt Patnaik and illustrated by Nancy Raj. It is such a lovely story of, of humility, of grace, of, unconditional love, and that's what Hanuman's Ramayana celebrates. It is, of course, begins with Valmiki writing his Ramayana. Nancy Raj, of course, we love your Mithila style illustrations in this story, and we think they add so much, joy into what is such a, joyous tale already. So Valmiki has written the Ramayana, and he's very, very happy that he feels he's written a lovely book, and he wants to show it off to everybody. You can see Nancy Raj, Nancy Raj's illustrations that literally leap off the page, done in this very folk Mithila style, which carry the story forward even when there's not that many words saying what happens. Now, of course, everybody is delighted and everybody reads it and they are thrilled with the story. But Narada comes up to him and says, I have read a better Ramayana. Thank God, Hanuman's Ramayana, another favorite. Yes, we read. It's such a lovely story. And I can't tell you, Preeti Ramchandran, you say, oh, our favorite Hanuman story, currently, beautiful illustration and a revelation for sure that Hanuman had written his version. Yes, I mean, fortunately, as I said, literature open to interpretation always should always be. And, the thing is, of course, Valmiki is now, suffering from writer's angst. He's like, my God, has somebody written a better Ramayana than me? And he goes off to find Hanuman's Ramayana. What emerges is such a beautiful story of understanding that every writer brings to his story. Asha Nehmaya, you say Hanuman's Ramayana is a great book for all ages, a must-have, heartwarming, and so beautifully illustrated by Nancy Raj. Beauty is that it is completely non-denominational, like Muttama says, absolutely, completely non-denominational, and that's the way the best literature should be. The thing is, to discover that indeed, somebody has written a more beautiful Ramayana, showing that books are open to being interpreted in different ways. And, the story that follows subsequently of the reason why Hanuman wrote his beautiful version of a Ramayana, it's such a lovely, story, as Asha Nehmaya says, for children and for adults, a book that can be enjoyed across the age groups in our picture book pack too. What I particularly loved about this book was that Gillo, the beautiful, theater company run by Shaili Satyu, did this wonderful Harikatha format of Hanuman's Ramayan, narrated so beautifully. If the play comes back, in your towns, your cities, your spaces, please do go and watch, because that's the beauty of literature. Each person interprets it in a manner that just makes you go, ah, my God, thank God books can do this for our world, can do this in our lives. So Hanuman's Ramayan by Devdutt Patnaik and Nancy Raj, published by Tulika in our picture book pack 2. And again, to exceed two requests from a lot of parents about activity books, we have one that's called Inside India: Festivals and Celebrations, full of puzzles, crafts, recipes and quizzes, taking you through the gamut of festivals that we celebrate in colorful India. You can see, there are, and unique festivals, and unique traditions are highlighted in the form of activities in this wonderful book. I mean, it's not just the festivals of Diwali or Dashera. There are harvest festivals, there are, Sikh festivals, there are Parsi festivals, there are Christian festivals, and there are just these quirky festivals that Indians all over the country celebrate. And those have found, made their way into this book in the form of puzzles, crosswords, activities, recipes. And, this, I think, even spot the differences done using a lot of festive cheer. So we've added this one into our Bookwali Diwali pack 2, which is meant for children in the ages of 5 to 7 years. And two other books that feature in it are, again, the Hooray for Diwali and the Diwali coloring book. So again, something that's meant for the youngest of readers. And I just told you the stories behind these two books, the four of these ones going into making our picture book pack Diwali, Bookwali Diwali picture book pack 2, again accompanied by a greeting card that can be customized, some special bookmarks, attractively packed and carefully curated, ready to reach young readers all over the country. So that was our Bookwali Diwali pack 2. I'm going to say a quick round of hellos before I get on to a couple of more recommendations. It's so lovely that on a festival morning, many of you have joined us here. I know a lot of our friends have joined us on Instagram. We have started going live up on Instagram only in the last 2 weeks. And we if those of you who are watching us on Instagram are on Facebook or YouTube, if you would log in and watch from there, you would be able to watch a 2-hour book show called the Book Buzzaar, where we introduce books, Indian children's books and YA books based on different themes. And we have a guest every week, we have a guest every week who, has done some work around that particular theme. So what happens on Instagram is that we have to, we can't stream it live for 2 hours entirely. So we go off after an hour, which means all of you who are watching on Instagram sometimes miss that exciting conversation that we have with guests. We are slowly working to see how we can include a third live streaming, because we already do Facebook and we also do YouTube. And as and when we get better at this will be included. But if those of you, and I know many of you come to us on Instagram, if you are on YouTube or on Facebook, do log in from there and catch our show. The books that are focused on, pictures are shown, the links to pick them up are all made available, none of which we are able to do on Instagram at the moment. A big round of hellos to Joanne Saldana, Preeti Ramchandran. It with just such glee and happiness do we call out all these names, friends new and old. And we have, in the last 5-6 months of doing the Buzzaar, created such a wonderful network of people that many of whom we know have always already been friends with us, but so many of you whom we didn't know. So we do believe that COVID has really, made our world so much more exciting by introducing us to so many, many more people, book lovers out there who have absolutely lit up our lives. Bindya Parwani, Anita Venugopal, Falak Randarian, what a pleasure to see you. We love the work that you do at your school. And we have so many parents who talk so wonderfully of the great work that you do at your Montessori school. Usha Ramaswamy, what a pleasure. Asha Nehmaya, a big hug going out to you. Nancy Raj, Nidhi Agarwal, friends, really delighted that you're here. Aarti and Mamta, we love some of the new books that you've brought out, and what a pleasure that you've joined us at the Buzzaar this morning. Sket My Dress, as I said, Instagram handles truly that delight us. Vinita Stories, what a pleasure that you're here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. As I said, writers, illustrators, families, parents, mums, dads, teachers, librarians. It is such a wonderful Saturday for us at Funky Rainbow always. And we have you to thank. Our Saturdays are Bookwali Saturdays. Our weeks are Bookwali weeks, basically, simply, because of all of you and your interest in these books. Moses Sia, you say, greetings from Singapore. It's truly a pleasure discovering the wonderful range of children's books that you share. Thank you. It is for people like you that we do it. We are so glad that you've taken the time to join us all the way from Singapore. Vinita Stories, such a pleasure. Shanaz Hanif, what a pleasure that you're here. Shanaz Hanif, what a pleasure you're here this morning. Arzu Kaveri Sen, I always tell you, when we know that young people are watching our Buzzaar, it just makes us supremely happy. Thank you for joining us. A teenager, somebody who's turned teenager, somebody who's turned young adult, and somebody whose birthday we just celebrated 2 days ago. A big shout out to you. And if you're still watching us at 18, I know we haven't done something wrong, really. Thank you, Arzu Kaveri Sen, for that pat on our backs. Renu, Sindhu, Luke's Karthi. I love Luke's Karthi, and I hope life is Luke's because of books. Arita, thank you so much for joining us. Janaki, Nikki Girl, Gayatri Bamra, again, another young lady who joins us at the Buzzaar when 18, 19-year-olds are joining us. We are just so happy and we think everything is all right with our world. Thank you so much. Bhavna Kittur, what a pleasure. Shivani Kanodia, we are, so many of your names are so wonderfully familiar. And I do hope, once COVID is sort of, out of the way, we can all meet in real life. The pleasure would be unimaginable. Neelima Mohit, Archana Madhavan, Raw Pav. I hope Raw Pav never gets cooked and it's always available raw. Praveen Sheikh, Richa Jha, what a pleasure. And, it's just wonderful. Congratulations to you on the White Ravens, nominations, and for being put on that catalog. A big shout out to you for taking our literature all over the world. Richa Jha, this is the power of books lighting up the world, frankly. So thank you so much for being there at our bazaar, and congratulations. We are looking forward to more and more wonderful books from Pickle Yolk and you. Padma Baliga, absolutely a pleasure. We read, I know you said that your bazaar was last week was your first bazaar. We're delighted you've joined us here again. Divya Purandar, lovely friend. We really are delighted that you're at the bazaar. Jyoti Narayan, what a pleasure. The Bookwalis, the work that you do, Joanne Saldana, Archana Atri, and Jyoti Narayan, spectacular work in showcasing the best of literature for all of us. This is what we need to do: introduce more and more people to the diverse kinds of books that are coming out. Funky Rainbow focuses entirely on Indian children's books, but there is no limit when it comes to books. One day books from all over the world should be in our lives, and should really light up all our lives. Neeraj Jha, nothing like a dear friend, a partner in so many ventures, successful and failed, being here with us this morning. What a pleasure that you've joined us at the Dasara Deepavali Bazaar. I do know we've created so much children's content to get together, and I know many people whom we are saying hello to in this bazaar know you extremely well as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Amita Sawant Kubal, absolutely a pleasure that you're here. Premila Shiraz Seni, thank you so much for joining us. Jane D'Souza, big welcome to you from Singapore. We are so delighted that you have joined us at this bazaar today. Ira Jha, Andalib Wajid, wah, just favorite writers. I wish I could literally put my hand out and say hello to all of you. We are so delighted that, friends, on a festive morning, you have taken the time to join us at our book bazaar. Harry Licious, what a pleasure. We love that name. And Ma Janaki, thank you so much, Janaki Sabesh. We love the stories you tell, and we do hope one day so many of you would have participated in our bazaars, so that parents, teachers, librarians everywhere know of the wonderful work that Indian creators of children's and young adult books are doing for their children. That is the small effort that Funky Rainbow is making every week, and we thank you all for your unconditional and wonderful support of everything we do. I will continue. I know we have 10 minutes before our guest of the day, and I know he's literally going to have to run from the computer that he's monitoring to come over here to tell the story, the control panel, so to speak. We have 10 minutes before he joins us, but we will continue with our recommendations, till he can join us in another 10 minutes. My next recommendation is a delightful, book by Devashish Makija and, Priya Kurian, illustrated by Priya Kurian. There is, there should be no one out there who hasn't read this hilarious book, When Ali Became Bajrang Bali. Of course, I'm showing you the Hindi version. We are waiting for the English one to reach our shelves. It's probably going to be with us today, but we do also have this delightful story, and I know Priya Kurian has been sharing some of her favorite Ravana illustrations, and she did put up this wonderful one from the book, from this book, where, there is this excellent picture of Ravana with his multiple heads. It's a hilarious story set in the times of Dashera and Diwali. And what is it about? If those of you haven't, and I know we have it, it will be available with us in English, but those of you who are happy to read it in Hindi, because Divya Menon says, "Good morning, Auntie, waiting to hear Sham Uncle's story in a bit." Absolutely, Avyukt and Amiya. I hope you already don't know the story of Sweet and Salty, because, that is such a lovely Diwali, or a story that features the Ramayana in some way. While we wait for him to come on, this lovely book, When Ali Became Bajrang Bali, about the residents of Bargad Chawl, and what happens losing their nooks, and who are these residents. I think you could have taken a good guess from the cover of the book already. They are worried about losing their nooks and their crannies and their perches, and Ali the monkey decides to become Bajrang Bali and come to the rescue. It's a hilarious story. It's delightfully illustrated, and it's a must read for all families in this season. We would recommend it for 6+ year olds typically, but you could read it to a younger child if you're reading it out aloud. When Ali Became Bajrang Bali by Devashish Makhija, and in fact the Hindi version that I just showed up has been translated by Devashish himself. Our next collection, and because we are in the mode, and Hanuman, such a lovely, lovable character. I know many children who simply love the Hanuman and his antics. And like I said, my aunt, to whom I shouted out for her 92nd birthday, used to narrate these stories of Hanuman to us when we were children, while we were getting fed, where we would get like little bits and bites, little balls of food in our hands to eat. Suddenly, when Hanuman was right in the midst of an important mission, he would have to turn around and remind children to eat their food. Only after which could he rescue Sita, or find the Sanjeevani booty, or help Rama build the bridge to Lanka. So 2 books, again by Anita Rena Thapan, both centric on Hanuman. And much like Hooray for Diwali, the same characters of Gittu making an appearance in both these books. So Gittu and his family, who comes into Little Hanuman. And what is the story of Little Hanuman? It is, and setting it in a wonderful context. For instance, Gittu is looking right up from his apartment balcony to the swimming pool downstairs where people are swimming. And one of the things is that he feels, my gosh, from the top it looks like a little bowl of water, but he knows it's a large swimming pool. And he asks his mother, do you think I can dive into the pool from here? And she's like, oh no, don't even think of it for a single minute. And then goes on to tell the story of Hanuman and how he crossed the ocean to Lanka. Now, what made Hanuman powerful? For instance, the boon that he got, what boon did he get? And what made him an all-powerful ally of Rama in the battle to bring, in the battle against Ravana, and to bring Sita back from Lanka. So it's a picture book that focuses on Hanuman being strong, fearless, but also telling you that he was clever and very, very naughty. So again, like I said, Anita Rena Thapan, and illustrated by Alankrita, published by Tota Books, priced at 250 rupees. We would recommend this for 4+ year olds, as we would this one too. Here is again a book by Anita Rena Thapan, and illustrated by Alankrita, which it in fact begins by saying, have you read Little Hanuman? Because it takes the same story forward. The story progresses for them about crossing the bridge and searching for Sita. And the book has in its, as you can see, very simple, again, Mama and Gittu talking about the story of Hanuman, and in a sense, the story of friendship, courage, and the courage to do what you set out to do. Priced at 250 rupees, again meant for the youngest of readers. For 6+ year olds, for 4+ year olds, is what we would recommend, both Little Hanuman and Powerful Hanuman. for those age groups. And before, okay, so we I'm going to recommend two other books before Sham comes online. There is this simple one from CBT called Titu and the Fireworks, written by Mrinalini Srivastava and illustrated by Saurabh Pandey, which is a story that we must often think of when we celebrate our festivals. What happens with all the noise? What happens with all the smoke? What happens, when you burst firecrackers? What happens to the creatures that share this planet with us? The beautiful creatures whose home Earth also is, really. It's a simple story about this young parrot called Titu, who always wants to go away from his nest, but his mama has a watchful always keeps a watchful eye. And they are getting ready. I mean, the world is getting ready to celebrate Diwali, and mama is telling them about staying safe from firecrackers, staying a distance from firecrackers, and telling these her little children, including Titu, how to stay safe. So while we tell our children how to stay safe and have a happy and safe Diwali, the premise is equally valid for all the creatures who share this planet from us. So let's be mindful in the festival season, not to pollute, not to burst crackers that that cause noise pollution, dust pollution, smoke pollution, and not to frighten the other wonderful creatures that are in our midst. A simple story from CBT, and the book priced at 50 rupees. T2 and the Fireworks. So Muttama, who's a huge dog lover, says she would like everybody to listen to that story very, very carefully, to the fact that let us be mindful of the feathered creatures, the four-legged creatures that live in and around us when we celebrate our festivals. Now, before I invite Sham, I will just, quickly introduce the book that he's going to tell the story from. It's a delightful tale called Sweet and Salty. It's a folk tale from Andhra Pradesh, and it's written by that wonderful writer for children, Sandhya Rao, illustrated by another marvelous illustrator who hasn't been doing too much illustration in the children's book space of late. That's Srividya Natarajan. And this story, which comes to us all the way from Narasanapeta in Andhra Pradesh, is the story of Bangaramma and her husband Penchillaya, and a Harikatha storyteller who comes to town called Goranna Garu. I'm not going to give away anything more of the story. I just want to say Joanne Saldana says hilarious and so delightful, sweet and salty. Absolutely, Joanne. And we are going to let Sham bring those sweet and salty flavors alive with his storytelling. And I must say, Grey-Stroke, the world, please remember, in his children's book avatar as author, illustrator, and storyteller, he is Grey-Stroke, not Sham, also known as Sham. So, he is very particular about it. And I would like to say that Grey-Stroke Garu, because the story is set in Andhra Pradesh, Grey-Stroke Garu is going to regale you with this delightful story, sweet and salty, written by Sandhya Rao and illustrated by Srividya Natarajan. What happens in this fantastic story? What happens, why is the story the most powerful thing in our lives? That's exactly what Sweet and Salty is all about. Published by Tulika, priced at 95 rupees, and a must on all your bookshelves. Nandini Nair, you say hi, Vidya, Muttama, and Sham. What a pleasure to have you here at the Buzzaar. We do have one of your books in our book packs, but we are going to get to that one after Sham's story, Sweet and Salty narration. I'm just going to, invite Sham, Grey-Stroke. I'm sorry, I make the mistake often, to join us for this splendid storytelling session. You want some more? Do you want this?
Huh?
You got this.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
tackle it. You ready?
Hmm?
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so this solo of here, solo. What's happening?
It's my mouse is reversed.
Oh, okay. Would you want to come and just switch it on live yourself?
Hello, I'm Vidya Mani, and this is Book Bazaar. Okay, fine. This is not Vidya Mani. This is Grey Stroke, and I'm here to tell you a story. So let me start off by saying how I got into this. Can you hear me clearly? All okay. So storytelling has been, you know, for us, all of us, like it's a tradition that we have all, grown up in. So when I was growing up in Cochin on Wellington Island, so as kids, we used to have this temple nearby, and there was this temple festival that used to happen every year or every other year. I can't remember right now. And we used to go every night to listen to these Katha Prasangam guys. Or they're like similar to Hari Kathas and all that. So there used to be this guy on stage. It was a grand event, and we used to. It's always in the night. It's like the grand late night show. So at around 9:30, we have our little mats or bed sheets and all that. And as a family, we used to go there and sit in front of the stage and listen to these people telling us stories. And they used to be accompanied. There used to be the main storyteller, and there used to be one person, at least one accompaniment. And one was somebody who will have a drum. I have this little, pocket cajon here, and usually there used to be some guy with a harmonium, and they're like stories were like everything was larger than life, like ha yes, and nothing was normal, and that was the whole beauty of it. And growing up in such an environment where a story is always larger than life has kept me hooked to stories and the art of storytelling, and I always tried to tell a story or two every chance I can get. So here I am once again with a story for you. And this one, I have taken liberties with the story, but I shall tell you that this is a folktale from Andhra Pradesh, and it's called Sweet and Salty. By this version of the folktale is by Sandhya Rao and illustrated by Sri Vidya Natarajan, as Vidya has already told you. So let me start. Now this happens in Andhra Pradesh. So there were these two people in a village called Narasannapeta. And Narasannapeta in Andhra Pradesh was a small village. A lot of people lived there. And Bangaramma and Penchilaya, her husband, also lived in this village. Normally, their home was a very quiet place. But when the festival season, you know, comes, everything was exciting. So Bangaramma was excited this day too. I have been waiting for this day, Bangarama said to Penchilaya. Penchilaya, of course, he was not very interested in all this. Yeah, yeah, whatever. So finally, Goran Nagaru has come to this village. Of course, Penchilaya had no clue who Goran Nagaru was. Now, Bangarama was full of praise for Goran Nagaru. And Goran Nagaru is, I have heard him tell stories so often when I was a little girl. Now, at last, you can hear him too, Pinchalaya. Goran Nagaru? Yavaru? Who is Goran Nagaru? Pinchalaya said, Ayo, you don't know anything. Goran Nagaru is the finest storyteller this side of the Godavari river. When he tells stories, it is as though he is reciting poetry. And it is as though he's playing God's own music, yeah. God's own music. Hmm. No, Penchilaya had no clue. He had never heard of Goranagaru. Actually, he had, but he wasn't interested. And Goranagaru is like it could have been anything. He could have been, Shah Rukh Khan for that matter, and it would not have made any difference to him because he was one of those, you know, typical men, lazy, not doing much, would like to sleep whenever he could. So he's like, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, he was very good storyteller. I know, I know. Like a cow calling her calf, meh. Like women working in the field. And like, Bangarma was not impressed. He was like, hey, you don't know anything. You would better attend Gorannagaro's Harikatha. Maybe then you would understand what I am saying. She was angry. So Penchilaya had no choice because Bangaramma has decreed that he should go listen to the Harikatha. So now let's talk about Gorannagaru. Now Gorannagaru was a very famous storyteller of that region, and he used to go from village to village telling stories. And when the Harikatha season was on, he was the star attraction, and everybody liked to listen to his stories. So when Gorandagaru came to Narasanapeta, it was like excitement all around. For the next 10 days, he will sit under the big banyan tree where there's a stage set and he will be singing his Harikathas. And the village children, they were all excited all the time. So the village children would try to find out who this Gorandagaru is. And they had never seen him for the most part. And they had heard a lot of stories about Gorandagaru and incredible stories. Like, my father, he says he's 8 feet tall. So said one little boy. My mother says his face is like Chandana Bommalu. Red sandalwood doll. Then my grandmother says he can fly. Varanagaru can fly. Then somebody would call out like, "Hey, I see him! I see him! I see him! Come, 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 come!" They all would rush to the place where he was, and sure enough, he was. Goranagaru was a portly man, and he would be resting somewhere near the stage, and these kids would rush in to take a peek at him. The kids would climb the trees and sit on the trees and try to catch a glimpse of this famous man who has come to tell them stories from the Ramayana and stories from the myths and legends of our traditions. So he's like, hey, I see him. Hey, he is not like Devru and all that, like you are saying. He is like one bald man, just like that gray stroke only. And he's also very fat. Uh, That's what Goranagaru was. So you get a picture, think, yeah, kind of like me, I suppose. Like, see, there you go. There you go. So Goranagaru was ready at the village and he was going to tell a story. So that night, the moon came up early. It was a little fuller than a crescent moon because there was 10 days to go for the full moon. Kamla, Ostava, are you coming? Asked a man's voice in the darkness. Yes, Aya, I'm coming. Wait for me, replied a child's voice, sounding like she did not want to be left. But nobody wanted to be left behind. Of course, everybody was in a hurry to get to the banyan tree where the stage was set. Everybody except Penchilaya. Now, Penchilaya was like, he was the last one to go to the Harikatha, and he had no choice because, of course, Bangarama had decreed that he should go to the Harikatha. So there he was, like walking and dragging himself to the venue. And I work hard, Narsaya, Pinchalaya told his friend. I work hard and I need my 8 hours sleep. But my wife won't let me be. She says I must go to Gorannagaru's Harikatha. What am I to do? But complain or not, he had to go. And sure enough, he arrived at the stage where Goranagaru was ready to tell the story. Now, beside the banyan was a thatched roof. and that's where the stage was set. So it is open on three sides, and in the front where everybody sat, and there were two lamps all glowing to show off Goranagaru's talent and his larger than life storytelling. His eyes shone bright and from the lamps, the light of the lamps, and his face glowed. Gala 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 gala. And he had this, you know, bells on his feet which would ring out every time he took a step. Chill, 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 gala 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 gala. And then the Harikatha began. Long, long ago, in the land of the dancing waters and the sighing forests, ruled a righteous king. He began his Harikatha. Long, long ago, there was a righteous king who ruled the land. And as he began, the villagers hurriedly sat themselves down, and they gathered around the stage, and the story began. Of course, Penchalaya was the last to arrive. He just sat right at the back, wherever he could find some space where he could be, relaxed. And he sat there. Soon enough, lazy as he was, he fell fast asleep. The story continued. Goranagaru was like doing gala 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 Rama, 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 Lakshmana, Rama, Rama, Lakshmana, Rama, Rama, Lakshmana. The story went on, and at the end of the night story, everybody had gotten ready to go home. So as they were going, they were given a laddu each. So the sweet laddus with raisins and ghee was given to each one as they went. And sure enough, somebody woke up Penchalaya too and gave him a laddu. So he was like, oh, okay, thank you, thank you. He had the laddu. It was very sweet. And soon he went home. And back at home, Pinchalai was asked one simple question by Bangarama. Bangarama, did you go to the Harikatha today? Yes. May I go? Did I go? Yes, yes. Okay, then tell me, how was it? How was the story? He said, like, it was very sweet. It was very sweet. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, it was very sweet. I know, I know, I know. It is a very sweet story. Ramayana is a very sweet story, Penchalaya was like soon to latch on to it. Yes, 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 very sweet. Very sweet story, very sweet story. It begins so sweetly. Of course, he had no clue, and he barely listened to it. He was asleep half the time. So the next day, again, it was night and the Harikatha was on. So Bangarama asked Penchalaya, "You are going tonight, right?" So he said, "Must I go to the Harikatha tonight?" So Bangarama was like, "Of course you must. Huh? You have to go. It is your duty to go." So Penchalaya said, "Okay, I shall go." So, dragging his feet once again, he went to the Harikatha. And sure enough, he reached there. He made himself comfortable. And you know how that goes. There's no surprises there. And within minutes, he was like, and at the same time, Goran Nagaru was heavy into his. Eh, Rama, 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 eh, Rama, 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 eh, Rama, Rama, Rama. This song was on, and Rama had just gone into the forest. He had been banished for 14 years, and he had gone. His wife Sita and his brother Lakshmana were to go with him. The story progressed. Hey, Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, Sita, Rama, 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 Rama. Soon, Sita is kidnapped and is carried off to faraway Lanka. Rama and Lakshmana went in search of Sita. But it was a sad story because he had to search for Sita, right? Rama spoke to the birds. He asked the deer. He pleaded with the wind. Tell me, have you seen Sita? That was Goranagaru's version of it. And as the story became more and more gripping, the villagers pushed closer and closer to Goranagaru. They wanted to hear every detail. So they went closer. And Penchilaya, of course, was lying there like a big cushion. So what did people do? They started like leaning on him, like, okay. So yes, yes, Rama went to the forest. Yes, yes. As Rama went in search of Sita, people were resting on Penchilaya. Penchilaya was the cushion for the whole half the village. Used Penchilaya as a cushion. So after a while, Pinchley, of course, had no clue what's happening to him because everybody was just like, having fun at the Harikatha. And Rama went here and there looking for Sita. That day's serious story came to an end. And when it was time for everybody to leave, everybody just left except Penchalaya. Now, Penchalaya was sitting there, and as he woke up, he realized that his body was aching. He was like, yo, my shoulder is like, I think something heavy, something must have fallen on it, something very heavy. So he went home soon. Bangarama was there. Hey, welcome back. How was the story today? You tell me, what did Rama do? What did Rama do? Lakshmana? What happened? So Penchalaya said, today's story was very heavy, very heavy. So he was thinking about his shoulder, and Bangarama thought he was talking about the Ramayana. So that, yeah, very heavy. When he goes to forest and he searches for Sita, very heavy story. So Penchalaya latched on to that as well, and he said, yeah, yeah, very heavy story. I was so upset, very upset. Okay, let me go sleep now. I will go tomorrow also. So that night went off peacefully, and sure again, the next day the story continued. So Goranagaru was ready, and on the third night of the Ramayana, Penchillaya did not even pretend to sit up. He went straight to the crowd, and he went there and he slept near a tree. The story continued. Hanuman had been called. The monkey army was ready. The search was on, and Goranagaru was like, "Hey Rama, 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 Rama." Pardon the drumming. And when Goranagaru finished with that night story, everybody got up and went home as usual. They got their laddus as well, but not Penchilaya. Penchilaya was fast asleep. Now, there was a little thing that Penchilaya even didn't think of. There was a little dog nearby. So, this dog was also sleeping. And when everybody went home, and the first to wake up was the dog. So, the dog wakes up. Thus, the stretches. And there was Penchilaya sleeping with his mouth open. Now, dogs are dogs. So the dog, had this little, he had to answer the call of nature. Hint, hint. So what did he do? He just raised his leg and did his business. Shoo. And it just so happens that it was right into Penchilaya's mouth. And that's it. So he got up, he didn't know what happened. The dog had run away by then. So he woke up like that and he ran home. It was like, Bhashu, poo, 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 poo. So Bangarama was like concerned, like, what happened? Was it bad today? What happened? Are you concerned about the story like this? How was the Ramayana today? So he was like, it was very salty. Very, very salty. Bangarama was like, what? Salty, ah, salty. How can the Ramayana be salty? Bangarama asked. She knew something was off. When did the Ramayana become salty? Are you really going to the Harikatha? Of course, I am going. It was salty, I tell you. Lot of things happened in the Ramayana. But Pinchilaya's wife would not have any of it. Bangarama knew there was something wrong. So she came up with an idea. Tomorrow night, when you go to the Harikatha, I will take you. So Penchilaya knew that he had, met his match, and that the next night is going to be a tough one. But okay, he was ready for it. The next night came, and the story continued. And surprisingly, though, this time he didn't fall asleep because Goranagaru had reached a very crucial part of the story. And it was when Hanumanta came in. So Hanumanta's trusted commander, Ramayana. You know how the story goes. Rama calls Hanumanta and he says, "Go to Lanka," he tells Hanumanta. So Hanumanta goes to find Sita in Lanka. And where does he go? He goes to the Ashoka garden where Sita is held captive. Now, his duty was to tell Sita that Rama and the army is coming to get her. Now, he has to tell Sita that he is a messenger from Rama, right? So he was like, the story continued. Goranagaru said, Hanumanta hid in a tree, sat at the Sita was sitting at the tree at the bottom on the floor. Hanumanta was on the tree. So Hanumanta started scanning the environment. Face recognition system engaged. Scan, 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 scan. Scan, scan, scan. Reject, reject. No, no, no match, no match, no match, no match, match. Sita had been found. So match, and there were so many other women sitting with Sita. So he didn't know who was Sita. So he had to come up with an idea. So what idea he came up with? He said, "Okay, now I shall wait for all the other women to go away, and when Sita Ma is alone, I will go and do verification. So I will say to Sita Ma, I am Hanumanta, messenger of Rama, and I have come to take you back." But then he thought, oh, he may have two-factor authentication. So you cannot just say self-verification, not enough. So you have to do two-factor. Or what if she asks for OTP? What to do? So he had his ring. Yes, the ring. So Rama's ring would be the symbol. So as he made plans to say, okay, he thought when she is alone, I will look down at her and then I will drop the ring like this. As he was talking about dropping the ring fell down. And that's it. There was absolute silence in the crowd. The ring had been dropped. Hamanta, drop the ring! He swayed and he clapped and jumped his feet. Hamanta dropped his ring! What will Hanumanta do? Suddenly, there was a cry. Don't worry, Hanumanta. I am here. It was Penchilaya. Now, Penchilaya took it upon himself to save Hanumanta's task. Hanumanta! Hanumanta! Called Penchilaya and he leaped forward to Goranagaru. He pulled off the ring from his own finger and said, "Hey, Hanumanta, this is my ring. You take my ring and you go and you tell Sita that it is from Rama." And people are like, what just happened? He's like, oh, then he said, they're like, Pinchilaya has come to the rescue. Pinchilaya, 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 hero, hero, Pinchilaya, hero. And Pinchilaya took the ring and gave it to Gorandagaru, and Gorandagaru has become Hanumanta again. Hanumanta! So that night was momentous in the village. Pinchilaya had saved Hanumanta, and Pinchilaya had done great sacrifice in taking out his ring and given to Hanumanta himself. Goranagaru had no choice but to go with the story. And people were like full of praise for Pinchilaya. And very soon, Pinchilaya was a hero in the entire village. News had traveled to other villages as well, how Pinchilaya leapt onto the stage with his own ring, like a true devotee of Lord Rama. And he had saved Hanumanta with his own ring. So that afterwards, Penchilaya was like the talk of the village. And every time there was a Harikatha afterwards, Pinchilaya would be called. And sure enough, when Hanumanta dropped his ring, it would be like, Hanumanta! That's slow motion, by the way. So Hanumanta was always saved by Penchilaya from then on. And Penchilaya became the fixture for that particular scene in the Harikatha. Of course, he didn't sleep after that. And Bangaramma was very proud of her husband. Yeah. And children had lots of stories as usual about how Penchilaya, no. He is not human. Devru, Devru, Pinchilaya, Devru. So that's how Pinchilaya became the talk of the village and saved the day. And that is how Sweet and Salty went down as a story. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed the story.
You can beat the thing yourself.
Did it work?
Of course. And we are back. And that was just delightful. The power of a good story, the power of a great storyteller that was in, sitting in this little space and narrating the fantastic story of Sweet and Salty, Greystroke Garu at his storytelling best. So we received so many comments during this thing. I'm just going to read out some. Shruti Sri Raghunath, you say, my girls are giggling and they just can't stop giggling. Neither could we. We were at our well-behaved best. So was our storyteller at his well-behaved best. This is delightful. Padma Baliga says, Sham, you are just amazing. Nalini, hi. Greystroke Garu, guys, not Sham. Nalini says, hi, Greystroke. So good to see you in front of the camera. Richa Jha, you are just amazing. Jyoti Narayan, Dramebaz, Greystroke, full on entertainment. There is no shortage of Bollywood in our office. Viji, fantastic Sar, Divya Menon, it was just too good, Uncle. Avyukta Nameya Nair, it was just too good. Nancy Raj says, wonderful. Joanne Saldana, absolutely delightful. Jyoti Narayan, Hanuman's version is hilarious. And yes, indeed, Greystroke, the OTP and two-step verification was a very much appreciated, even if it, was in those Harikatha days. Love this Harikatha style narration, brings back so many happy memories. That's what Jyoti Narayan is saying. Ashan Hemaya says totally brilliant. Rupa Baliga says superbly narrated. There are so many. Richa Jha says you are amazing, Sham. That is Nalini Sorensen. Oh wow, we've just got so many compliments for Greystroke Garu's fantastic narrative style. Sweet and Salty, this wonderful book. I really suggest that you all pick it up. And it's not that hard. A cajon's just a box. Just find yourself the box or the latest or a table around you to narrate this wonderful story, adapted by Sandhya Rao and illustrated by Srividya Natarajan. Ashok Motha says awesome narration. Or Richard Motha says awesome narration. Thank you so much. Just goes to show how beautifully what Greystroke Garu did just right now, to show us how well stories can be adapted to fit any context. And most of you parents and teachers, librarians out there, you are already doing this every single day. So that was Greystroke Garu with Sweet and Salty, and a big round of applause going out to him for this fantastic storytelling. I am going to, move on to our next. I mean, we have so many things to offer. Children are saying they would like one more story. What we will do is to set up a lovely storytelling session entirely on another day, where we can simply just narrate stories to all of you, get Greystroke Garu to do some more stories. But thank you so much for that vote of confidence, children. We just love it that you love it. A couple of more, Diwali packs that I would like to focus on, because many of them contain all these wonderful books that I think should reach children, young adults, and adults here, there, everywhere. And our next one, which is a chapter book pack, it starts off with this lovely little book called Lucky It's Diwali, whose author Nalini Sorensen, happily enough, is right here at our bazaar. Now, what is lovely about this story is its protagonist, who is Lucky, of course, Lucky the little doggy, and Adit. Both of them here hate firecrackers. Rupa Baliga storytelling session is something that we would love to attend. It's something that we would love to present as well, and we'll certainly do, maybe an all-night storytelling session would simply just be fabulous, or an all-day or an all-night session, which we will certainly plan before this year runs out. Now, this one, is about how both Adit and Lucky, who both love each other dearly but hate firecrackers during Diwali. So does Lucky. I mean, neither does Adit love it, nor does Lucky. And this story, which is told from the perspective of Lucky, which makes it a really interesting story to read out to the youngest of readers, is a perfect read for the Diwali season, perfect to be read aloud, and also perfect for young children, say, 5 to 7 years, or maybe 6 to 8 years, depending on the reading levels that they are at. This would be a lovely story for them to read themselves. The illustrations by Shamika Chaves, as you can see, they're in black and white, which means they can absolutely be colored, which adds another wonderful layer of activity to this great Diwali book. And we would say this good to be read right through the year, really. So this is one of our books in the chapter book pack, and another book in this chapter book pack is again Devdutt Patnaik's 2-in-1 epic series, The Girl Who Chose and The Boys Who Fought. Now, this Ulta Pulta book, which is really, something that works very, very well for young readers, is amongst, one of those books that you can introduce to the youngest of readers. Again, we'd say, 6 to 8 year olds, written and illustrated by Devdutt himself, that interprets the Ramayana as a story that is, the consequence of five choices that Sita makes. So rightfully putting that question in front of our young readers. In fact, I think this is really, Sita's story more than the story of Ram. And this interpretation and this points of view make it such an effective story. In fact, this, as you can see, very large text and fairly big illustrations accompanying this text, basically, where he says the first decision that Sita made to marry Rama at the Swayamvara was the first choice that she made to make the Ram to set the course of the story of the Ramayana. What also Dev that does is to pepper the book with some fantastic facts, some really nice little bits and bytes of information, where about Valmiki writing the Ramayana over 2000 years ago. He talks about other versions, like 1800 years ago the Jains wrote their version of the Ramayana in Prakrit. 1600 years ago the Ramayana became a part of many Sanskrit plays, many harikathas like the one that Sham told. 1400 years ago it reached Southeast Asia thanks to the trade between our countries. 1,000 years ago, Kamban retold his Ramayana in Tamil, and 150 years ago, Valmiki's Ramayana was translated into English for the first time. So there are bits and bytes of information, as well as the choices, the choice that Sita made to go into the jungle with Rama. He hinges the story on these five key decisions that Sita makes. So it's a great way to get our children to look at stories in different ways. I mean, these are stories, they're open to interpretation, and they must be. And Dev Dutt has interpreted it as Sita's, as a story that is the result of five crucial choices that Sita made. Another book in this pack is one that we love at Funky Rainbow, called Adventures with Hanuman, written by Arshia Sattar and illustrated by Sunaina Coelho. What a lovely book. Arshia Sattar is an expert on the Ramayana, having written very many books for adults on the Ramayana, having interpreted Valmiki's Ramayana in so many ways. And in this one, a book that we would again say works for readers who are reading chapter books or possibly a little older, and you can see big illustrations that accompany the text by the wonderful Sunaina Coelho. This is the story of Raghu, a young boy who's absolutely, utterly bored and longing for adventure, and looking at his room when he's looking at the posters of Sachin Tendulkar, and he's looking at posters of his favorite actors and his favorite sports people, and wondering what exciting lives they have and what a dull life he has. Of course, there is a little, picture of Hanuman there, and suddenly that picture of Hanuman simply just comes to life. As you can see, he just a friendly face on the poster. He appears before him and invites Raghu to do what is an extra, to be part of what is going to be an extraordinary adventure, help Rama look for Sita. And so, with Raghu sitting on his shoulders with a little bit of magic, you're battling dangerous creatures, you're shape shifting, changing sizes, and you're helping, Hanuman build a bridge. And you are, Raghu has embarked on the adventure of a lifetime. It's such a lovely book. It's such a beautiful way to contemporize the Ramayana, setting it in a modern context, and yet telling the story of this wonderful monkey ally of Rama, Hanuman. And this is something that is in our chapter book pack as well. One more book in this chapter book pack, which is something that we stumbled upon only fairly recently is this beautiful book that uses shadow puppets to illustrate its story. Lights for the Blueprints, a story of Diwali, written by Soumya S. Iyer and Ito Collado, have collaborated to actually use original shadow puppets to illustrate this fantastic tale. It is, of course, the story of Rama, the man considered a jewel among men, and this popular story, while the story is being told, also, kind of tells the stories of many legends associated with the celebration of Diwali. But what is absolutely outstanding is the use of these elaborate shadow puppets, these gorgeous shadow puppets, to bring alive this ancient form of storytelling. And I think this idea to incorporate, and we have seen, we've so many harikatha performances that you go to, and if there are village festivals or fairs in cities where there are, or a Ram Leela, even sometimes, you will have these little tellers with puppets behind a screen, and using these shadow puppets. They are quite easily available, shadow puppets, and I think it would be such a wonderful exercise for the family to use puppets to tell this story. And as you can see, perfectly works for 6 to 8 year olds. Very little text, and gorgeous illustrations that just leap off the page. So this is our one of our chapter book packs, with 4 books. As I said, all of these books are available at the moment only as packs, and you should look at our chapter book pack if this one interests you. It is really a wonderful gift, and it sort of straddles the ages between 5 and 8, or even 9 years perhaps, or 6 to 8, 6 to 9 years, depending on the reading abilities of the child. As I have said earlier, the packs come with a card that can be personalized. They come out, there are bookmarks that go into it, and the whole thing has been packaged in a most attractive manner. I will move on to a touch of more books before we get on to our next pack, or which this one is a book that the Ramayana in pictures, is a beautiful big picture book, which is actually a very traditional story of the Ramayana in pictures. It's a hardback book, handsomely produced. You can see how big it is, written by Mala Dayal, wonderful editor for children, and a wonderful editor basically, and a wonderful writer for children, and illustrated by Jagdish Joshi. The thing is, the illustrations in the book just are so vivid that they bring, and sort of old school illustrations in a way. Jagdish Joshi was one of our senior illustrators, and has won many prestigious awards very many years ago, say in the 80s and the 90s. Especially, he's won the Norma Concours Award, which is a prestigious award given for illustration. And this one, as you can see, a very traditional approach to illustrating the book, but in glorious detail, the Ramayana literally in pictures. It is priced at 500 rupees, and it's a book that children can kind of look at over, children and adults will look at over and over again. I think it's a lovely way. If there are children who have not been introduced to the story of the Ramayana yet, this would be a great way to introduce them to the traditional story of the Ramayana. There is, of course, we have another one called Ramayana in Rhyme, I think. One second. Yes, we have another one called Ramayana in Rhyme, which is again a lovely book that has tells the story of the Ramayana in rhyme. This one by Kairavi Bharatram and Ananya Mittal. Actually, this is the way the story's blurb itself goes. follow the adventures of Sita and the bros, but this time let's do it in rhyme and not in prose. It's a modern retelling of a classic tale. Cross your fingers and hope that Ram and Lakshman won't fail. To rescue Ram's wife from an evil mister who was out to avenge his heartbroken sister, they went on a journey through forests galore with allies aplenty, but enemies more. With a monkey army by his side, Rama set off to rescue his beautiful bride. It wasn't easy, many things came in their way, but they managed to be positive even when the skies were gray. So let's dive into the sands of time and let's learn about the Ramayana in rhyme. Again, a book we would recommend for chapter book readers, because as you can see, and in a form poetry which we don't often introduce our children to books in verse. So this is one of them, published by Scholastic, written, as I said, by Kaveri Bharatram and Ananya Mittal, illustrated by two wonderful illustrators who've been doing work for so many years, Vandana Bisht and Suvidha Mistry. This one is priced at 295 rupees. And Muttama says, as we were reading the Ramayana, there was the sound of the dhol, there was the sound of bells and conch shells from all the spaces around us. So music, as you can see in the Ramayana itself. Our next, chapter book pack, which contains four books, again for readers in the ages of 6 to 8 years, has a delightful selection of books. This is a chapter book pack, and it has, and I know Nandini Nair, you're possibly watching Minnie's Money, written by Nandini Nair and illustrated by Isha Nagar. Now, what is the story of Minnie's Money? Now, Minnie's money is, Minnie is being wished by her Mausi. She's been wished happy Dashera by her Mausi, and her Mausi has given her some money. Now, what does Minnie want to do with this money? What is she going to spend it on? Is she going to spend it on books? We hope so, definitely. Is she going to spend it on clothes? Is she going to spend it on sweets? What is she going to do to buy? What is she going to do with that money for Diwali? The thing is, Minnie herself doesn't know, and she only knows wherever she goes, that's where the money is going to go as well. The thing is, life has always some wonderful surprises in store for most of us, as it does for young Minnie in this series. And it's a series of books, of course. There's another one in the series called Minnie's Questions, but this one is focusing on Dashera and Diwali, which is why we've put it into our pack. There's all kinds of adventures that are following Minnie and her money, and you have to read the book, which is again, one of those read and color books, which means you can see text and illustration, which is left black and white for you to color. Written by Nandini Nair and published by HarperCollins in our chapter book, Bookvali Diwali Chapter Book Pack 2. The second book in that series is this wonderful one called 10 Heads for Tanuj. And I tell you, this book has you rolling in laughter as it would any young child reading chapter books. It's written by Priya Narayanan, who, a really big shout out has to go out to her for having won the Neve Book Award recently for her picture book, Srinivas Ramanujam. The same Priya Narayanan's 10 Heads for Tanuj. Now, what is this about? Well, Tanuj, you know what? He loves listening to the story of Ravana every single night, Ravana and his 10 heads. And one night, after Amma has told him the story for the 150th time that night itself, Tanuj goes to bed saying, east or west, Ravana is the best. How many of you agree about that? I think Ravana was a real cool guy, basically, right? And he says, east or west, Ravana is the best. And what happens next morning? Alas and alack, Tanuj wakes up with 9 extra heads. How is Tanuj going to have a bath? How is Tanuj going to go to school? How is Tanuj going to live up to what is happening in school? It is such a hilarious story about the 10 heads for Tanuj, again written in again like a chapter book meant for young readers. As you can see, not that much text on the pages and many pictures accompanying the text, so you can have children look at these pictures as they read the story, or as they read this wonderful chapter book. It's a hilarious and heartwarming story that is so right for the Shera and Deepavali. So it's the other book that has made its way into our second chapter book, Bookwali Diwali pack. So there are those two books, and there are two others that go into this pack, which are two books that I have spoken about earlier already: Devdutt Patnaik's The Girl Who Chose and The Boys Who Fought, which is, of course, the Ramayana from Sita's perspective. From Sita's, as a result, he says it is the story of the story results because of 5 choices that Sita makes, and tells the story from that perspective. And this glorious, gorgeous book, Lights for the Blueprint Prince, by Soumya Iyer and Ito Corrado, and published by Vakils Pfeffer and Simon. Simply spectacular because of these fabulous shadow puppets used to make the illustrations in the book. So as you can see, the entire Bookwali Diwali chapter book pack going up there. And if you have children in this age group, 6 to 8 years, 5 to 9 years, it can stretch a little bit this way, that way, depending on the reading levels of the readers. Do consider our second chapter book pack. I'm going to move on to a couple of more of our packs, but before I go there, there is one book that we so wanted to put into one of our packs, but I don't think there's that many copies of the book available in print. This glorious chapter book, or I would say a book for middle readers, perhaps, Arshia Sattar's Ramayana for children. Such a gorgeous, spectacular book. This is illustrated by Sonali Zora, and you can see these splendid illustrations right here, interpreting one of India's greatest epics. Now, Arshia Sattar, absolutely adheres to Valmiki's Ramayana, very, very faithfully, because that's the version on which this book is, written. You can see Sonali Zohra's excellent, sumptuous illustrations, literally bringing this story alive for, two readers who perhaps may have just been introduced by way of listening to stories to the original Sanskrit text of Valmiki. And what Arshia Sattar says in this, lovely book, I mean, as a sort of, epilogue to the book, is that, she tells, it's the story of Rama. And she says there are, why is the story of Rama one of her favorites? Because it is the story of jealousy, betrayal, of love and honor, of courage and faith, of friendship and loyalty. It is about kings, warriors, ferocious rakshasas, flying monkeys, fathers, mothers, sons, brothers, husbands, and wives. But above all, it is about doing the right thing when there are many choices in front of us. Good morning, or rather, good afternoon, Shantanu Datta Gupta. What a pleasure you've joined us at the Book Bazaar. Thank you for being here. We have just been recommending a couple of scholastic books, and you perhaps caught that, or you may have seen us making those recommendations. But just to come back to this glorious book by Arshia Sattar, which is a handsome hardback and, so beautifully illustrated by, Sonali Zohra. This is certainly a great introduction to Valmiki's classic, for young readers. We would say anyone 8+ year olds, anyone that's 8+ year old can, enjoy this one. I mean, Muttama was, just mentioning that these illustrations, caught Greystrokes' fancy as well, and he's pretty picky about the illustrations in children's books. I'm going to move to our Bookwali Diwali pack for middle readers. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to just focus on, our packs going forward. There are several books that were placed in between these packs, which are all up on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Please click the tab that says Buzzaar, look at Dasara Deepavali, and find all those wonderful books that are tucked away between our Bookwali Diwali packs as well. But please do consider gifting, lighting up somebody's life, with books, whether they're children, young adults or adults. We have books for, all ages in our Bookwali Diwali packs. So this one for middle readers is a lovely book. I mean, it has a lovely collection of books, one of which, and we love this one, which is very special to us because this is called the Celebrate series, and it's your fun festival handbook. It is special because Greystroke has made the covers for this entire Celebrate series, and this one that focuses on Diwali has some wonderful stories. It's the kind of book that, children, and we would recommend this for 9 to 12 year olds, perhaps. It is the kind of book that has little bits and bites of things for readers of, who like to do different kinds of things. So for instance, there are stories by Anu Kumar, by Shabnam Minwala, there is by Lubena Bandukwala, by Shwapna Datta. There are lovely little bits and bites of information about Diwali, like why is it the festival of lights, what is the origin of the celebration of festival of lights, what context does Diwali have in Indian history, what are the significant Diwali traditions, and lovely little art and craft things, making your own clay diya, making Diwali door decorations, making salt dough diyas, making Diwali chocolate squares. This is the kind of book that, readers who want to do different things out of a book would enjoy considerably. It is, this is our middle grade readers Diwali pack, and we would recommend it for 9 to 12 year olds. In the same pack is this lovely retelling of the Ramayana by Upendra Kishore Roy Chaudhary, who we all know as Satyajit Ray's grandfather, a wonderful writer and storyteller himself. And this one, which has been translated, this children's Ramayana, which has been translated from Bengali by Tilotama Shom, is such a lovely, way to open up another world, because obviously when Upendra Kishore Ray Chaudhary wrote, the Bengali influences of his life made its way into his interpretation of the Ramayana for young readers. And it is, you certainly don't get the impression of it being some holy text when you read it. It is absolutely an approachable, friendly, flawed, and marvelous story to read that reflects so many characters and people that you are likely to see and meet in your own life. Tilotama Shom has done an excellent job of translating it from the Bengali, and Priyankar Gupta, who's illustrated this handsome edition, like a real lovely hardback edition, has done a wonderful job of interpreting it through, illustration. You can see fairly, this these vivid illustration which simply transports readers into the world of princes, raksharas, vanaras, demons, is a lovely one, for middle readers between the ages of 9 to 12. And of course, there is this one, which is an old book written by that lovely, person who took Indian food here, there, everywhere, Madhur Jaffrey, who literally popularized Indian cuisine all over the world, primarily in the UK. She has, from her own childhood of growing up in India, retold some wonderful myths and legends of our country. And this edition that's brought out by Penguin, which is illustrated by Michael Foreman, a very, very well-known British illustrator, has the stories of Savitri and Satyavan. It has stories of Krishna and Narakasura, which is one of the stories that are very popular in the South. Our when we ask people in South Indian families, they say that Dashera is celebrated because of Krishna's victory over Narakasura. So there are those stories as well, but there is also Dashera, the festival of victory, where Madhur Jaffrey has written several, little stories about Rama's victory over Ravana. So this one, and as I said, myths and legends that focus on various, festivities across, there is Navratri, there is Holi, there is Diwali, there is, the full moon night. So she has sort of woven, very deliciously stories from different myths and legends of India. So this one also going into our middle grade Bookwali Diwali pack, which should come up on your screen just at the moment. Before I go on to the next Bookwali Diwali pack, which is for middle grade readers, I want to absolutely introduce this. Yes, so that's the one that's come up on screen. Bookwali Diwali gift box with the 3 books for middle grade readers that I just introduced you to. There are lovely bookmarks. There's a greeting card that can be customized, and it's just gift wrapped very beautifully and attractively, with boxes that are stickered. And in the coming week, we will share photographs of all the boxes as they actually are. So if you're looking to light up someone's lives with books, these could be an option that you would consider. Before I move to my next middle grade pack, I have to, introduce to you a book that just came to us, 2 days ago, which is so apt for this festival. This one is called Navadurga, The 9 Forms of the Goddess, written by Nalini Ramchandran and illustrated by Priyanka Pachpande, which is a great way. I mean, Nalini Ramchandran has interpreted, as Durga as a powerful goddess with 9 avatars, and each of those goddesses, like powerful warrior goddesses, each one is unique, and each one has different names, different attributes. So there's Shailaputri, there's Brahmacharini, there's Chandraghanta, there's Kusumanda, there's Kandamata, there's Katyayini, and the book it's telling you the stories of each of these avatars of Durga. You can see that it's been illustrated quite vividly, and I think a lot of adults too would enjoy the 9 forms of the goddess, the way they have been interpreted. And what I like about the fact is that these stories, these forms, they do praise the goddesses to their glory and talk about the supreme feminine power in a lot of our mythology and folklore. So gloriously illustrated, lovely book, which would ideal for Diwali. I wish the publishers had sent them to us earlier, but they just arrived at our shelves 2 days ago. This one particularly arrived at our shelves on our shelves 2 days ago. Navadurga, the nine forms of the goddess, priced at 299 rupees. Our next Bookwali Diwali pack for middle grades, and I know we're out of time, so I'm going to talk about an adult, young adult, and an adult pack before we wind up, and very quickly focus on our new arrivals, some of our new arrivals. So bear with me, give me 15 more minutes before you tuck into your Dashara lunches. So this one, the next pack for middle grade readers, again begins with a book by Rachna Chabria, Festival Stories Through the Year. It is so reflective of India's diverse festival traditions. The story has two twins as their focus, Natasha and Nikhil. And Natasha and Nikhil have just returned to India from living abroad, and want to find out about our different festive traditions. And Rachna Chabria, to her credit, has absolutely straddled the gamut of religions, the gamut of cultures, going, from Pongal and Vasant Panchami and, Makar Sankranti, going to Gudi Padwa, going to Easter, going to Baisakhi, going to Eid, Guru Purnima, just encompassing the whole range of festivals that India celebrates right through the year. The thing is, each of the festivals that she's talking about is tucked away in a story with something that the twins do on that particular day, and then followed up. For instance, if it's Mahavir Jayanti over here, the twins are, there's a little story that the twins are part of in this Mahavir Jayanti celebration, and then it ends with either of the twins writing in their diaries about what they learned, what they understood, and why these festivals are celebrated. It's a great way you can actually get your kids to journal similarly. A wonderful book that introduces children to festivals through stories. So that's one of our books in the middle grade readers pack. There is a favorite at Funky Rainbow, which we have obviously spoken to you several times over. This one is Ravana Refuses to Die by Rustam Dada Chanji and illustrated by Priya Kurian, about a Ram Leela that comes to town. And guess what happens? The Ravana in the Ram Leela simply refuses to die. And you can see the hilarious picture on the cover where the Ravana refuses to die because he's not gotten paid. I told you Ravana is a real dude. He knows the right things in life, basically. But it's set in this beautiful little town of Babubari that attracts such odd characters, as I feel we can only see perhaps in India. Sinister sadhus, annoyed actors, slimy Sethjis, marauding monkeys. My God, Rustam Dada Chanji's stories and Priya's illustrations simply bring this collection of hilarious stories, Ravana Refuses to Die, to life fabulously well. So that's the second book in our middle grade readers pack. And Muttama says, from having watched several Ram Leelas, how many disaster stories abound in the country because of all the mix-ups in the Ram Leela traditions, in the Ram Leelas that get enacted across the country. The third book in this pack, also brand new on our shelves, is Piyusha Veer's Dasha Avatara. This one has been illustrated by Aprajita Vasudev. And what is lovely about Piyusha Veer's book is that it takes you back to a time where, long before superheroes with capes and superheroes with gizmos and gadgets captured our imagination, she has, portrayed Lord Vishnu as that superhero who comes to the rescue every time evil takes over the world. I mean, really, our own Iron Man, our own Captain America, our own, Marvel is, and we should probably check if Marvel may want to take some tips of this superhero from our, literary and mythological traditions. Now, of course, she is talking about each of the avatars of Vishnu, and explained in a manner that young readers in the age of 9 to 12 would be so excited to see why Vishnu took the certain avatar to rescue the world from evil. So, of course, there's the Matsya avatar, there's the Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, Vamana. We know these 10 avatars of Vishnu. And this one is a wonderful book. And of course, I have to say that there is a DIY Vishwarupa poster. I should not reveal that poster, but I will just show you that there is a poster in the book and not reveal the Vishwarupa to you just right now, because this book in our middle grade reader pack, meant for 9 to 12-year-olds, is something that would appeal very much to readers in this age group, as well as to adults who want to find out in a crisp, concise way about the different avatars of Vishnu. So that's the Bookwali Diwali middle grade reader pack 2. We do have one that we call as a pack that's meant for young adults, and this one has Ramayanas of all kinds. Especially, we love the fact that there are, stories that simply and completely, sort of subvert the fact that Divya Menon's, yes, auntie, there is an Indian Avenger in Dashavatara and Mahabharata characters. Also, absolutely one of the greatest Avengers that we, knew pre-Avengers. Basically, there was no Iron Man Avyukt, when we were growing up, and perhaps this man and those from other traditions as well were our superheroes without capes. But about the young adult and the adult pack is the fact that a traditional story, a traditional epic, one of India's most beloved epics, has been, sort of turned on its head and has a very feminist appeal, in, and has taken a very feminist turn in these 3 books that we have put up for young adults and adults. And I will begin with the one that's absolutely my favorite, which is Sita's Ramayana by Samhita Arni and Moina Chitrakar. This is a fabulous hardback book, and you can see illustrated in this wonderful Patachitra style of illustration. It is such a great interpretation of a timeless epic. Samhita Arni deftly just changes the perspective of the story to Sita, to the other women in the story, basically, and interprets it as a consequence of their actions. They are not passive, mute spectators to a war that men are fighting. They are not mute, passive spectators to the diktats of men. And I think this graphic narrative in the, I'm sorry, I said Patachitra, I mean in the Patua style of illustration, absolutely adds such a fantastic dimension to this epic tale. And it is really a book that should be read to understand that literature is, we interpret literature the way we live our lives today, and that is the glory, that is the power, and that is really the role of literature in our lives. Texts must be open to interpretation by readers in the manner that they feel most comfortable doing. It must be interpreted by creative writers and illustrators to send life lessons for the times. So this one, Sita's Ramayana, a fairly, a very, very wonderful, version, and a New York Times bestseller. The book has done so remarkably well. I have another favorite writer of the team at Funky Rainbow, whose book we've put into this young adult and adult pack. We'd recommend this pack for 15 plus year olds. This is the great storyteller writer Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. And this one is called The Forest of Enchantments. It is really a lyrical, I mean, Divakaruni Banerjee is a very, very lyrical writer, and we know many of her books going from The Palace of Illusions or Arranged Marriage. Her prose has such a wonderful musicality to it. Her prose has such felicity that, she is a remarkable writer to read. And in this one, this is her story of Sita. It is her interpretation of this tragic love story. She has interpreted it as a tragic love story, and she too places Sita firmly at the center of this novel. And such beautiful, it's a powerful comment, really. And these are questions that we must ask. A powerful comment on duty, betrayal, infidelity, honor, and why it is women's responsibility to sort of uphold all of these norms and customs. It's really a Sitayana in more ways than one. And I really think our young adult readers, you may think, is it too much for a 16 or a 17 or an 18-year-old? I mean, the prose is lovely. Our young adults should be introduced to good writing as well as to rich ideas like this. So this is another one that, this is also a book that goes into the young adult and adult pack. And we have this wonderful feminist writer all the way from Andhra called, Volga, really powerful feminist writer. Please do look up Volga's writings and Volga's work itself, which is so inspiring. This is her story called The Liberation of Sita. What is the liberation of Sita? And it's not the story. I mean, it starts where the story of Rama's exile ends, and where he returns to Ayodhya, a triumphant king who always does right by his subjects. But what of his wife? Is he Purushottam Rama? Is he Maryada Rama? And the great thing about her interpretation as well is that self-realization in the book happens. Also, there are realizations that Sita has, but there are also many, many self-realizations that come Rama's way. And Volga has focused on the women characters of the Ramayana. Sunila Kulkarni, you say Volga is amazing and it's a must read. Yes, such a powerful interpretation of even smaller women characters like Surpanaka, Renuka, Lakshmana's wife Urmila, Ahalya. Very, very, wonderful questioning of morality, choice, sacrifice. This is simply Volga at her feminist best. And I want to say this: we must be unafraid to introduce our sons and daughters and husbands and wives to such powerful narratives, because these are new interpretations. These are the way, texts are interpreted in modern times. So that was a pack that we had for young adults and adults. We would recommend it for anybody 15 plus year olds. Our final pack is a family pack, of course. So a pack that has a book for the entire family, straddling the youngest of readers and going up right to the oldest ones. And there are a couple of books in this pack that we've already spoken to you about in the course of the Buzzaar. There is Kahani Purani, which is that lovely pop-up book for the youngest of readers, for 2+ year olds, where you can pull and push things and, sort of get a small gist of the story of the Ramayana. And we literally love the fact of how many things can pop in and out of these books. I will show you like a quick one of flowers falling on Rama for the benefit of those that did not see it when we started our book with this when we started our Buzzaar with this book. There's Hanuman's Ramayana. Not enough can be said about that lovely book. This one we would say would work for 2+ year olds. There's Hanuman's Ramayana, which would work for 5+ year olds, which is the power of the written word, the power of the story as written by Hanuman, and the power of being selfless, a lesson that I think many of us adults and children need to know in this to need to know and understand. There is the beautiful shadow puppets version of the Ramayana, Lights for the Blueprints, which has been illustrated gloriously using shadow puppetry, which is a traditional telling of the Ramayana, but so gloriously and marvelously done using these shadow puppets. We would recommend this for 8+ year olds. There is in this pack another writer whose interpretation of the Ramayana we thoroughly love and enjoy, which is Bulbul Sharma, who's such a good writer. We would recommend this one as well for 9+ year olds. It is written in such a lively, child friendly style, this interpretation of the Ramayana. And, it is perhaps a perfect first Ramayana for children who have gone beyond reading picture books and want to know, like, what is the full story of the Ramayana, and what are those battles, what are those conundrums that the heroes and heroines of the book face. So this one we would definitely say for 9 to 12 year olds. In this pack, we have a writer too whose interpretation of the Ramayana is fairly old. I mean, in the sense that this book, Ashok Banker's series of books, and this is called, the whole series is called the Ramayana. We have Prince of Ayodhya. Banker has this fantastic ability to take what is like a legend or a myth and interpret it in a superb, fast paced read, to make it very attractive for young adults. We would recommend this for 15+ year olds, and we would recommend it for all adults who want to read. He brings he keeps you turning the pages, and how his pace never flags. I really feel, perhaps Ashok Banker has some training writing film scripts. The pace of the book simply doesn't flag. Even when you know the story, you are waiting to see what happens next. And this one is the first, of those series. And I think, it's probably over 10 years old. And I'm not sure it has been, widely available of late, but we are delighted that to feature Ashok K. Banker's Prince of Ayodhya, meant for young adults and adults, in this pack, in this family Bookwali Diwali pack. And our last book meant for adults. It would have been a shame if we didn't have this one by Arshia Sattar. And as you can see, she has made an appearance in so many of our packs simply because of her most secular and wonderful interpretation of Valmiki's Ramayana. She's obviously a big fan of Valmiki's Ramayana and has studied it considerably across the decades. And this Valmiki's Ramayana, translated with an introduction by Arshia Sattar, is a great read for adults because it's asking you those fundamental questions of how to be good, how, for Arshia, the Ramayana is the story of a god. I mean, because she's based it on Valmiki's Ramayana, who comes to earth to establish righteousness, but in our midst, his divine nature has to, undergo several human trials, and that is exactly what makes it one of the most compelling epics of world literature. Here is Rama, who's come down to earth and has to undergo trials, and he fails and he falters, and he succeeds and he triumphs, and that's what makes him so human, so believable. And this, this interpretation, the translation and interpretation of Valmiki's Ramayana by Arshia Sattar, is a fabulous read for 18+ year olds. There are very, very many Ramayanas available in English, but Arshia's is one of the most faithful ones to the original and a compelling retelling if ever there was one. So that is our Bookwali Diwali pack for the entire family, and we would be delighted if many of you, all of them available as products on our website, and we would utterly and absolutely be delighted if you considered spreading the light of these books amongst family and friends. I know I need to say a quick round of hellos to a couple of people. T4 Tales, thank you so much for joining us at the Bazaar. I hope you noticed, us focusing on your book, in our Bookwali Diwali packs. Icha Wadia, thank you so much. Beyond Books, Young Angels Publishing, Janvi Ashar, what a pleasure. Santosh Sebastian, good friend. Mamta and Aarti, lovely to see you here. Matthew Jacob, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Middle East, and thank you so much for telling us that you enjoyed Greystroke Garu's storytelling. It is such a pleasure to do interesting and exciting things in our bazaars, and we absolutely love presenting it to you. Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, lovely, Divya Menon and her wonderful children, Shivangi Sharma, Moses Sia, Shruti Sri Raghunath. We are glad that you're back at our bazaars. We've missed you the last couple of bazaars, Shruti, and I hope you're well and back on your feet, ready to listen to stories and more books being introduced. Dinesh Nambiar, such a pleasure that you're here. Nandini Nair, Venkata Lakshmi, Ram Mohan, Vijay Lakshmi Nagraj, what a pleasure. I'm so glad you put aside some work that you had to do to come to listen to Greystroke Garu and his storytelling, sweet and salty interpretation of the Ramayana. Seema Karanth, a pleasure that you're here with us. Another storyteller whose storytelling style we love and enjoy. Ashok Mota, Richard, Omchuk Doma Bhutia, Nidhi Agarwal, Shantanu Datta Gupta, Tara Veera Raghavan. I want noodles. I too want something. Like, okay, lovely to see you here. Doodlers, Ashia Nasreen, Abbas, Timira Gupta, what a pleasure. We love the way you interpret different things, and the way that the work that you do with your schools, the way that you use books. We just love it, and we're so glad you've joined us at our book bazaar. Blue-blooded Mumbaikar tales, lovely, lots of blueprint stories right here for blue-blooded you. Anurag, Aditi, Surtal, Surtal Masti, what a pleasure to have you here. We do know we have your musical book right on our shelves. Thank you so much for joining us at the bazaar. Prachi Jain, such a pleasure being here. I know week after week we absolutely miss out on our new arrivals, but please do check out our new arrivals section. We can't hold you back anymore. It's already 1:30, and I'm sure a lovely Dashera lunch or a weekend lunch awaits all of you. Thank you so much for being at our Dashara Deepavali Bazaar. It has been an absolute pleasure to present these books to you, as well as Greystroke Garu's storytelling. Keep watching our bazaars for more and more book excitement. We really do want, to for the world to be lit up with books, whether it's Dashara, Deepavali, or any other festival. We do want this world to be lit up with books, and in our case, especially Indian children's and young adult books. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful Dashara weekend. Bye bye.